Now, do you want me, is it better if I look at the camera or look at Sam? I'm like very
See, I don't want you to know. What's going on, guys? Sam Brown here at elitefts. Going to be going into the leg drive on the bench press. Now, leg drive is something that kind of gets a little bit all over the place. Some people tell you one thing, other people tell you the other. This is what I'm gonna be telling you today, and I know for a fact it's gonna help you get bigger numbers on your bench. All right, what we'll do first and foremost, I'm gonna have Alex here just lay down and showcase what his bench form is gonna be looking like. Big weight.
Oh yeah, baby.
Here we go. So that's okay. First and foremost, what we're gonna see here, and again, I'm not gonna be jumping into his entire bench setup or anything like that. We're just gonna be focusing in on the lower half. So unrack the bar again, and what I want you to notice, if I were to walk around the bench and tap his feet, kick his legs in, they don't move that much. And that's what you should be thinking about. That's what you should be kind of focusing in on when it comes to creating that leg drive for your bench. So what I want you to do is rack the bar. And now what I want you to do is when you unrack it, don't drive so much into your feet, and let's showcase, right? We're just gonna showcase what it looks like. And again, if you are not actively pressing those legs into the ground as you are unracking and stabilizing that weight, I'll have to show you. What you're gonna see is as I walk around, you can move those feet. Instability from here is the equivalent to having a backhoe, right? When it wants to dig, it has to put down those stabilizers first. Your legs are your stabilizers. Without that, you're unable to create the amount of force and tension that you need throughout the rest of your body to stabilize that barbell and to lift the weights you want to lift. So, a couple tricks about learning leg drive and teaching leg drive. If you want to come on over here, so we'll do the that drill I showed you. So, one of the biggest issues with people learning how to do something for the first time is that it's a sensation that they are totally unaware of and they don't know how it feels. So one of the best ways that I teach my clients how to utilize leg drive or the concept of leg drive in the bench is to have them set up for their bench. You don't even have to grab the bar. We're just gonna set up like we would normally, put those arms up. Nope, not even on the bar. Just
up?
Yep, just
okay.
up. So what I really want to demonstrate here is give them a sensation and a feeling. So what I'm going to do, my two fists are going to go on his shoulders, right? So what I'm going to have him do, I'm going to place my arms on his shoulders here, and I want him to try to scoot his body towards me, okay? So the idea with this is that, again, you're teaching them what it should feel like to have leg drive, and you're giving them something to push into. This is the equivalent to teaching somebody how to brace with a belt on to give them something to press against. So again, hands on shoulders, leg drive towards me. More. As he gets really good at this, rest. As they get really, really good with this, they should, in theory, be able to push you harder across the room than you can stabilize them. So what I want you to really focus on here, Alex, so I'm gonna do it again and drive into this, into my hands as much as you can. Hard, much better. And what you can do if you're a coach or a trainer, you can utilize this as a warm-up. You can utilize this for activation of their technique so that they can get that feeling and that sensation in order to, again, get into those better positions. So let's demonstrate now that leg drive with the bar and the rack. So again, you're going to be forcing those feet into the ground as hard as you can, just like you were pressing against me. Unrack it. There you go. And as you can see, there's nothing. Nothing's moving. Everything is locked in, solid. Looks good. So a couple points when talking about leg drive, especially on the bench press. Luckily enough for us, we have awesome elitefts benches here that are very, very grippy. But if you're in a commercial gym, if you don't have access to an elitefts bench, check out elitefts.com if you want to buy a bench. We have a trick to be able to get more, essentially a stickiness onto your bench in order to be able to drive into that pad and to be able to utilize those legs more effectively without sliding across the room. So what we'll demo here We'll grab a couple Elite FTS bands. Beautiful. Again, we like using the light bands. You go on one side of the bench, wrap it underneath. You instantly have a more sticky surface for you to drive those shoulder blades in and to be able to get all of that leg drive to go directly into that pad. Another thing when talking about leg drive, Alex, I'll have you demonstrate again. One thing that doesn't get considered much about leg drive is your feet position in relation to your hip mobility, right? So as you can see here, Alex is super wide. He also has legs like a spider. He's a tall guy. So what you'll notice is, if you want to bring the camera over here, his right side is farther out than his left side. The distance, his toes are pointed more out on his right side than on his left side. What that tells me is that he has a mobility imbalance from left to right. So what I'm going to show Alex here are just three, I guess they would call it mobility drills or stability drills, to help open up that hip just a little bit so that he can get proper leg drive, an even leg drive from left to right, all right? So first one, I'm going to have you do just the couch stretch. So what you can do, if you want to come right over here, you're going to be putting the top of your foot on a bench, and a couple keys to note here. One, we're focusing on opening up that hip from the front side of it. Think hip flexors. You want to focus in on keeping that rib cage and that pelvis lined up. And as you see here, this was the side that wasn't going out as wide as the other one, and he is not particularly close to that foot. So ideally you want your glute and your heel to touch. So if you're the coach or the trainer, I would look for a position or a stretch where they're feeling it like a 7 out of 10, right? How's that feel?
Probably
good.
7, yeah.
All right, so what we don't want to see is any sort of leaning backwards, arching back, or even coming up the other way, forward, because that's a false positive, right? So what we want to see is that nice, stable, stacked position, getting all that stretch through that quad and through that hip flexor. What you'll notice if he has really super tight quads is he's going to feel in that quad first, and then eventually as it loosens up, it'll go right into that hip. Good. So we'll pop out of there. So we'll do that for, I usually go with breaths when it comes to stretching. So 8 to 12 big deep breaths. That should be about 30, 40 seconds. So next stretch, what we're going to be doing is now we want to open up the outside of that hip. So I'll have you adopt the pigeon stretch. This is a great stretch to essentially open up the outside of that hip, get into that glute. So what we'll do is we'll come on over here. So he's pretty good. If you notice, the front of that hip was tighter than the outside of that hip, right? So what we want to focus in on here is knee. You want to try to get a straight line from your ankle to your knee straight across. I also like to have him have his hands out front to stabilize that spine, make sure it's in a nice neutral position so he's not bending over forward, getting a big curve in that lumbar spine, just keeping it nice and straight. And he can also utilize those hands to actually push himself deeper into that stretch as he gets more and more comfortable. Focusing in really on, again, keeping that back leg nice and straight. You don't want to kind of make it all cockeyed and all over the place. And you just want to sit in this position and kind of breathe. As you'll notice, he will get deeper and deeper as the stretch goes on. Again, 8 to 12 big deep breaths, mobilize that hip, and that's it for that one. So the final stretch I'm going to have him do, pop right out of there. This for most people is going to be fairly difficult. This is called a frog stretch because it makes him look like a frog. So what we'll do, I want you to get down to your elbows. He's going to have his feet, the insides of his feet flat on the ground, outside of his knees, right? So this is working on the internal rotation of that hip. Internal rotation, meaning your hip coming in this way, usually for most people is a lot more lacking than their ability to externally rotate. So a couple points with this. Again, ankles and feet outside of knees, right? And in this position, again, we're going to try to find that 7 out of 10. He's going to think about pushing back Oh, that's terrible, right? Not great. So he's gonna think about pushing back into that stretch and really trying to just relax into it. Again, 8 to 12 big deep breaths. And we'll see how this new positioning turns out after just one round of these. Good, we'll hop up. How's it feel?
Pretty good.
Not too bad?
Yeah.
All right. So that was just a few mobility drills. So let's see how it turns out just going through one round. There we go. That's already better. Awesome. As you can see, he's able to open up a little bit more on this hip, and he's looking even better on this side. So again, he's far more even than he was. And that's the key. If you're going to be producing leg drive, you need to make sure that you are going to be evenly producing leg drive from one side to the other, or else you're going to find yourself twisting, you're going to find yourself in uncomfortable positions and unable to stabilize weight as it gets heavier and heavier. Thank you very much for checking out this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to check out more videos on how to increase your bench, my friends Seth and Miana came out and they did an awesome video on how to set up for the bench press, and they share a very cool lat trick that I know you'll enjoy.